Do you ever think you could be overreacting about Chidi's sister?
I don't ever feel like I overreact.
You want to scrunch your teeth at me and saying the problem is me because you're messing with the wrong freaking ass person.
After this latest episode, a few things are true. I feel like I owe Veah an apology. I think that there's obviously so much more to her story. However, I still want to send her back home and send her to therapy. I wish it could have been Vanya's friend during that convo with Bozo. And of course, I would have loved to have been in the room when the producer finally questioned Chicken Lady. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiance before the 90 days. We have a lot to cover, so we're going to jump straight into it. Before we do, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you guys so much for being here. I love talking about the show with you guys week after week. Honestly, what makes me wake up extra early on Mondays to record this before work, but I love that we have this. So yeah, I'm gonna jump straight into it. I'm gonna start with Bozo. So it's their first morning in Croatia. Vanya is getting ready. She's so beautiful. But I want to ask her why she does her makeup like that. It's giving rabbit eyes. I was wondering why she always looked like she was about to cry or she had been crying for hours. And it's her pink eyeshadow. She puts it everywhere. But anyway, she tells us that she, feels like she's getting mixed signals from Bozo. And she just is hoping that it's nerves because she just got there. But when we see him, he's like, no, I actually don't feel anything romantic. And this is why I'm confused. And we had this awkward moment. Regardless, he picks her up and they go sightseeing around Croatia. And it's really beautiful. I love European architecture. But then they stop at this place and it seems like it's isolated and has nice echoes. And he starts singing. But then it becomes a joke because he starts singing about her liking vegan brownies and things like that. But of course, Vanya, and I think any girl would be like, oh my God, this is so romantic. He's singing for me. He's singing my name. And she's like, this is the Bozo that I love. This is the Bozo that made me fly here. His jokes, his charisma, So she's eating it up. In Bozo's confessional, he says that they're on different pages, that he thinks that Vanya came here thinking that they're going to jump straight into a relationship. And I want to respect that, right? I want to respect that he is on a different page. I want to respect that he's taking things slow. However, I feel like that's something that you should have talked about before she got on a plane to see you, because you're not making it a secret that you knew her intentions. So if you knew her intentions and you knew that you couldn't fulfill that, why not stop her in her tracks? They're having this conversation as they're walking around and she's asking if she's going to see his friends, who she's going to get to meet. She asks about his mom, his aunt, because she knows he lives with them and she knows that they're close. And he's like, yeah, my mom is so excited that you're here. And she's like, tell me more. And you could see that he's a little peeved at the line of questioning, but I think that she is just desperately trying to get some sort of sign that he's into her, some sort of sign that he sees a future, because remember, she's on this trip thinking that they're gonna get engaged. So he realizes this is his opportunity to come clean, and he does. He's like, I feel like this is a friend vibe. I don't get romantic vibe yet, but I think that we can grow into that. And she's like, grow into that? We've already said I love you. That's why I'm here. And he's like, yeah, but all of that was when you weren't here and now you're here. I will be the first person to tell you that your relationship truly starts once you have met in person. I completely stand by that. However, I think that you can develop feelings. It may be that you have feelings and then you meet them and you're like, oh, you're not who I thought you were. But there still have to have been feelings. And the way that he's talking about it, I'm like, I don't know if it's just the way that he expresses himself. I don't know if it's a cultural thing. But it just seems like he's like, no, it's always been one-sided. And I mean, I'm attracted to you, but we'll see. Because I do believe that they have, a friendship, but Vanya isn't crazy. Vanya is like, there were things that happened that led me to come here, including you telling me you love me. So she just starts crying because she's like, I can't believe that I'm hearing this. No wonder no wonder there's this distance between us. And she asks him if like he feels physical chemistry with her because she's feeling it. And he says no, not in the romantic sense. And like, and with chemistry, I feel like that's something that you know? Because I have had chemistry with people that I don't love. I've had chemistry with people that I don't necessarily want to be with. It's just an attraction. And if you don't have that initially with someone, I don't know. You guys let me know what you think on that. Do you think that that's something that you can build over time? Or do you think that like, if you don't have it, you don't have it? But I felt really bad for Vanya because she's like, you know, she obviously came under different pretenses. And she tells him, she's like, I had to put like my 4 million jobs on pause to come here for 3 weeks and to hear that like this may be one-sided, like that doesn't feel good. And still, like even through tears, like they hug and like she, you know, is determined to push through, go take things at his pace. But you can see that this is a huge disappointment. I also want to call out that he mentioned something about her being too much, her presence being so overwhelming. And I just feel like that's not fair. You've been talking for 8 months. Even if you're talking in pajamas at home, I feel like this is her energy. I don't know what he was expecting. And I think that I would like to hear a little more about that. And again, I do want to make clear that I do think that like you can meet someone and be like, oh, like you're not who I thought you were. But for 8 months, I don't know. So that's it for them this episode. It looks like down the line, she's going to meet his friends and they're going to tell her some truths. I have a feeling that it has to do with his ex. He still seems really hung up on her. I have a feeling she's still in the picture. That's my theory based off of the teaser. I would love to know what you think. But yeah, we're going to move on to Veah&Sunny. We get to South Africa. Veah, you know, is by herself in this hotel room and she's like, Sunny won't see me. She writes to Sunny. He tells her, leave me alone. You broke my heart. This man is standing on business in a way that I'm like, she came all this way. Like, at least have a convo. Have your closure. And Veah's like, you know, I feel like he's throwing away our year. And I'm like, Veah, did he really throw it away? But I'm trying to be empathetic to the fact that, like, emotionally, Veah needs support. She's had a rough life. I just feel like anyone else would have been fine. I think that there's a lot of people in the comments that, you know, thought that I had an issue with her bringing someone at all. That's not the case. She's a woman. She's traveling by herself. I completely understand traveling with backup. I think it's the significance of her ex. I think that we keep dancing around the fact that Rory went out of his way to antagonize Sunny in his comments on top of already Veah&Sunny having trust issues. There's a lot that is represented with her bringing her ex and then hiding him on top of that. There were a series of decisions made that caused this. So to say that he threw it away, I think that it's not taking responsibility. But she does explain that she just has a hard time expressing emotion. She's a bit emotionally stunted because of her trauma, but that doesn't mean that she doesn't hurt. That doesn't mean that she doesn't feel regret, remorse over everything. And I can see that. And I'm not a specialist, but I feel like a lot of the way that she processes her emotion feels like a child. And we see just like the way that she navigates the world, like it's very childlike. Because we see that when she leaves the hotel, she decides to meet Rory at a market, which is probably the best idea. Don't meet him in the hotel room and have Sunny, you know, run up on y'all and it'll just escalate. So she sets out to meet Rory at a market and she like, you know, finds a local stand and wants a pineapple. But then she thinks that she's going to be able to pay with Apple Pay. And this is one of those things where I'm like, girl, you are an adult woman with a career, with a house. Like, you didn't do any research before you traveled. And that's when I'm like, okay, you have all these anxieties about traveling, and so you need someone to come with you. But why not use that anxiety to also educate yourself? You're really going to show up to a local market without cash? And then she calls Rory immediately, and of course he's like, yeah, I have cash. Like, of course. And it was like, wow, okay, Rory is a good friend, but also the dependency is almost like it is giving child. Like, you can't travel without him. You need him to like do common things like remind you about the currency. But anyway, she brings him up to date with all the drama with Sunny, and Rory's like, yeah, I mean, I understand why he views this as a betrayal. He's like, you need to make it right. I feel like there's a lot of context that he doesn't know about your life and why you are this way. You need to try to get him to understand. And I think that her relationship with Rory is valuable. I think that they are trauma bonded for life. She endured, the loss of her brother. They endured a miscarriage. I saw in the interwebs, I also saw an article where it mentioned that she had also been trafficked. So that's also, part of her anxiety and why she feels like she needs, someone to be with her. And that made me understand her a lot. But I think that you have to have some sense of awareness. This is a lot to bring into a relationship without the context. If you're just saying, oh yeah, my ex is around me all the time because I'm just used to him, that's not a valid answer. Now, if you give the context of, oh, he knows this, this, and this about me, he knows when I have a panic attack that he needs to do this, all of that is important. And I think that as a partner, it would make this whole situation a little more palatable. But if you're just being like, yeah, my ex is my friend and you need to deal, no, the F I don't. So after this talk with Rory, she's determined to get Sunny to see things her way. I'm all for, but also I just feel like she's not apologizing enough for me. Like, there needs to be an apology, But Sunny agrees to meet her finally because he's like, I deserve an explanation, like you broke my heart. And he arrives with his eyes also bloodshot. They clearly both have not slept. He arrives, she greets him with like flowers, and he's like, okay, thanks. Like, this is nice, but you paid me dust when I brought you to this apartment, and now because you're sorry, instead of saying sorry, you're bringing flowers. But she's trying. She really is. And they go to the balcony, and he's like, explain yourself. And she does. She tells him, the context of the fact that, like, she didn't think that she would be able to get on the plane if she didn't have that support. She shares a little bit about the traumas that she's experienced with her brother and the miscarriage, because this is the first time that she's shared that with Sunny. And you can see that Sunny, like, he's being receptive. His anger is, subsiding. But he looks at her and he's like, I understand all of this, and I've shared with you my traumas with abandonment, and they may not be like yours, but they're things that hurt me, and I've shared that with you. And I think he said that as a way to be like, I've shared so much with you, like, why don't you feel like you can trust me too? She's like, I understand, it's just hard, and I just want you to know that, like, there's nothing romantic between me and Rory. She explains that he's family, and that, like, she knows his family, he knows hers, and, like, they've been through so much, they've gotten through so much, but they're just friends. And I still have mixed feelings about this, you guys, because I just feel like your bond is so deep that I don't know if there's space for me. I feel like there's still things that you are working through. And again, I'm not here to diagnose Veah. I do think that she has things to work through because she's still holding on to Rory, not just like as a friend, but more like a crutch in order for her to get through certain things. And I just feel like, I don't know if that's it. And maybe I'm just insecure. Maybe I'm just not as secure, and you guys may think differently, but I feel like I would always have like a tinge of doubt or fear that you would eventually be like, actually, I love this person and I'm just meant to be with them, Like I said, Sunny is less angry at this point, and he, feels deep sadness because he loves Veah and he hates that she's gone through this. But he's like, it's not that I don't want you to be friends with Rory. I think that you're not realizing that it's the lack of communication between us that is causing harm, that is causing the trust issues. And the way you went about this Rory thing is not okay. And he tells her, he's like, I want to be the person that you can lean on. Like, but you got to let me, And they end in a hug and they agree that he's going to stay over. And, it's fine for now. But in his confessional, he's like, I'm afraid that there's more. And like there's always going to be more. That he's always gonna hold a place in her life that I won't be able to compete with. He didn't say those exact words, but that's the sentiment that I got. That's also the sentiment that I feel. So maybe I'm projecting. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. How would you guys navigate a relationship like that? Let's move on to Niles and Matilda, okay? So it is the day for them to go to Matilda's hometown. This is where he's gonna have to break the news to the fam that the wedding is not gonna happen in this trip. Matilda's trying to prep him for this meeting because she's like, they're gonna ask you questions, and I just wanna make sure that they don't think that I did something to make you delay it. Because remember, he finally told her that he's like, listen, I'll do the knocking ceremony, but the wedding has to wait. And he's afraid that they're not going to allow that because traditionally you get married shortly after the knocking ceremony. So there's a lot on the line. They pray on it, they get on a plane, and they fly to her hometown. And you guys remember that initially when she went from her hometown to Accra, she had like a really long bus ride. Well, this is her first time on a plane ever. And she was like, oh my God, this is the first time that I've been on a plane. And the next time I get on the plane, it's going to be to live with my love. And I'm like, I hope it happens. I really want it for them. I really feel like they could be good together. I just feel like they're going to have a lot of barriers with tradition. And Niles is sweating under pressure. When we see them the next morning, Matilda sends him off to the barbershop because she's like, you need to look prim and proper to meet my family. But the nerves start from jump because Niles tries to talk to the barber about what he's gonna, do. And the barber's like, listen, whatever you say, make sure you mean it. Because if not, they will curse you. And I believe that anything is possible in the spiritual realm. So I was like, Niles, don't play with that. Niles is shooketh, but they're on the ride to meet her family, and Matilda is, trying to quiz him on what to say. She's like, listen, I don't want you to lie to me again, and I don't want you to lie to my family. And so he says that he's going to tell them that he came to meet her in person to see if they work, that he never said to anyone that they would get married within these 3 weeks. And Matilda's like, no, you don't get to say that. 1, because that's a lie. 2, you fully knew that we were planning this wedding, and we saw it on FaceTime, you guys. We saw that, while he had some hesitation on our side, when she would say that she's inviting X, Y, and Z, her family has rented tents and chairs. He never said, no, don't do it. He would just be like, what is this gonna cost me? But he never said no. So Matilda's like, no, we've gone through this. You're not doing this again. She finally is just like, listen, just say the bare minimum. We're gonna get married and you're gonna come back for me. That's it. Don't add anything extra. He arrived, most of her family is there awaiting them, and they greet him with so much love. And I miss DR. I just miss when everybody is in one house. It just feels extra special, but I can understand that if you're not used to it, or if you're meeting like 20 people at the same time, it's nerve-wracking. And with his autism, it's even worse. He's really trying to find things that feel familiar to zen out. But for the most part, he's nervous. And I would be nervous too, because they're giddy. And all of a sudden, her uncle, who's assuming the role of her father, is like, so what brings you to our premises? It's really formal. And that's when Niles is like, I'm here because I want to get married to Matilda. And they're like, oh, yeah, we welcome you. Great. And so they're like, okay, you're welcomed. But the uncle's quickly like, yeah, you did promise when we talked on FaceTime that we would be under the same roof one day. And you promised that you would schedule the knocking ceremony and the wedding ceremony. And Niles malfunctions. He literally is like, I don't know if this was the edit. It just felt like the longest pause. And he looks to Matilda and he's like, I don't know where to go from here. And she's like poaching him lines, what to say. And I'm like, I love the teamwork. I really do. But if you're the family and you're waiting for him to say something and then for it to be translated, that length of time is so awkward. Niles finally tells the uncle, I would love to get married to her, but let's start with the knocking ceremony and then I will leave, come back, and we'll do the wedding. And you can see that the uncle is like, fine, I'll translate this. He translates it, and everyone's like, he wants us to not do it traditionally. And they're like kikiing within themselves, like, that's not right. I was so stressed for them. And you could see that Matilda was stressed because she could understand everything, obviously. And she's like reaching for Niles' hand. And after much deliberation, they're like, we'll agree to you knocking and then you get married 2 months after. Like 2, 3 months after. And Niles is like, I don't know. I don't want to set a date. I don't want to say yes to 2 to 3 months and then lie and then have them curse me. So he is panicking. If this was a cartoon, you could see like the sweat droplets. He was stressed. I was stressed for him. With the help of Matilda, he's like, please tell them that I will come back to you. I promise. I just don't want to give them a date because I don't want to let them down. And he like shows them her hand and he's like, look at the ring. Like, I promise. I made a promise that I will come back. And they look to themselves. They like talk to themselves and they're like, fine, we accept. Like, but don't let us down kind of thing, you know? You could tell that some people were not happy with that, but they want her to be happy. They've already made it this far. And afterwards, Niles says thank you in their language, which you could tell immediately lightened the energy. You could tell that they felt like respect from him. It was really sweet, and he prays over their food and they eat together, and it's a really sweet moment. But you could see that like Matilda's like, I'm scared that they're not gonna like him after this. I'm scared that he's not gonna push through. Niles is freaking out about money. He's like, 2, 3 months. Like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make that happen. Like, because obviously, even though the agreement was open-ended, it's clear that the expectation is we need to get married soon. So I'm worried for them because in the next episode, it looks like they're talking to an elder and the elder is like, no, actually, screw that 2, 3 months. You need to get married immediately after the knocking. So it's like a whole flip of the script and I just don't know what's going to happen. Niles is going to have to call up his family and be like, listen, we have a situation. But yeah, that's enough of them for this episode. Let's move on to Tigerlily&Adnan. It's going to be super quick. Tigerlily is speaking so slow. He's like, I have so many things to talk about with my husband, and I just know that it's going to be hard. He has a car service pick her up, and like there's flowers, there's a note, and he's really, you know, trying to kick it up for her, and she's just like, I don't feel anything because I feel like he's trying to schmooze me and we have things to talk about. And she gets to the hotel and he's like, babe. And I don't know if this is an age thing. I don't know if he's just so rich that he doesn't care. When she arrives to the hotel, usually people scatter rose petals. This man scattered bouquets with the plastic. It's just random bouquets plopped all over the floor and like random candles. And she's like, like just so unimpressed, unenthused. And he's like, babe, I'm so happy to see you. Now we're here. We can make babies. You know, he's really kicking it up because he knows that's what she wants. But she's like, why are you pretending like nothing happened? And he's like, babe, you upset me so much, babe. Why you want to talk about the past? She's like, that's not the past. That just happened. And I'm upset. You don't care about my feelings. And he's like, it doesn't matter. This couple is so infuriating because I really don't know who's the worst, you know? He's like, none of it matters. You don't care about my feelings. You don't care that I did all this. And it's obvious that he did all this to like shut her up. You can tell that he's used to just throwing money at things and making it better. But he's dealing with a woman that has her own money. I'm just going to go over this fight really fast because they're going to keep having it. Tigerlily keeps calling his Muslim customs double standards. And I just feel like, babe, at your big age, you should have done research before marrying into a Muslim man's culture. You got married to a Muslim man, did zero research, Do I agree with any of those things? No, but I also didn't marry him after an hour. So these complaints, I'm just like, girl. I'm also just perplexed by this scene. One, because they've had this argument every day and they're going to continue having it because she's dense and he is stuck in his ways. Also, the age difference, like he is acting like a 20-something-year-old and you are 40-something, successful, thriving. You should know better. You should want better for yourself. Two, he's feeding to make babies. And I'm like, this girl looks tired. She hasn't showered. She's been flying for like hours. Get off her. But I think he's overcompensating for the fact that he knows that she is pissed. And Tigerlily, she already doesn't show very much emotion, but she's really like, I'm not trying to perform for you. Ultimately, he's upset that she like is making him angry. And she's like, so every time I tell you how I feel, you're gonna act like this? And he's like, yeah, like clearly none of this matters, so I won't do nice things for you. I'm gonna be like other husbands. And she's like, you're threatening me? This is why I'm afraid to speak up for myself because I don't want to lose you. But also, technically, this is clear manipulation. He's trying to tell you that he's going to treat you badly whenever you speak your mind as a punishment. That would just make me run for the hills because this isn't a game. You don't get to play with me like a toy. You don't get to punish me like you're my parent. You're my husband. Again, there's like the whole situation where I'm like, in his culture, you are not equals. She's obviously upset that he posted this picture and she's like, I'm not allowed to post pictures, so you shouldn't. And he's like, the same rules don't apply. He's tired of having this argument because he's like, eventually I deleted it. I don't understand what this problem is. She's like, the problem is that nothing is solved. He ends up going to the bathroom and has like a pissy fit. She's like, I'm not going to run after him. I'm just going to, get ready for bed. He eventually does come out and they have a talk and she's like, listen, whatever you do, I'm going to do because it needs to be equal. This man laughs in her face because he's like, you don't get it, that we are not equals. Basically tells her that he wants her to just fake it. He's like, yeah, like if you're unhappy with something, just fake it. Like, so that I can be happy because all of this is making me unhappy. And he mentioned in his confessional that he feels like the way that she's acting by calling him out is being disrespectful. All of this is just a mess because after he laughs at her, he's like, listen, I'm sorry. Like he fake apologizes, but he's like, listen, there's different expectations for men and women. And she's like, I don't care that it's your culture. I don't care if it's your religion. We got married and I want it to be equal. But anyway, he's trying to get past this conversation because remember, he just lost his virginity a few months ago with her. So he wants to get to the lovemaking. So they solve nothing yet again. And Tigerlily recognizes this. She's like, we have a million issues that we haven't discussed. And it's just so sad because at her big age, she doesn't realize that he's not apologizing because he understands you. He's not apologizing because he's going to apply your suggestions. He's apologizing because he wants to get laid and he wants to shut you up. But these problems are going to keep coming up. He's not going to respect your standards. And honestly, having a baby with this man-child is going to be her doom. Not only is she going to lose out on all her divorce money, it's going to affect her dynamic with her current kids. It's already affecting the way that she navigates her social life. It's just too much. Like, none of this seems to be worth it for me. I can't speak for her. I just can't imagine making all of these changes for someone that I've known a total of 6 months by this time. It's just not worth it. But that's just me. I would love to know your thoughts. Let's move on to the final couple, Chidi and Rayne. They decide to meet at the beach. And so Rayne is like, oh, finally, Chidi, like, he's gonna come to his senses. We're gonna meet, and he's gonna tell me that he's talked to his sister, and it's them against the world, and he's gonna spend more time with her at the hotel. That's what she's thinking. Meanwhile, Chidi's like, I picked the beach because I thought that it would be a serene place to break up. And so when they meet, he's holding her hand. He's like holding on to her. And I'm like, Chidi, these are mixed signals. This also like he needs guidance. So that's probably why he's like leaning in, but it feels still very romantic. I get it though. They've had, 5-year history. There is love there. I just don't think that I would have led with such affection when you're trying to end things because as we see, it went left really fast. So they find a boat to sit on and she turns to him and she's like, "So, did you decide that you want to spend more time with me?" And he's like, "I understand you need privacy. I just feel like the way that you went about it was not great." And she's like, "Well, I don't get along with your sister, so why would I be in her house?" And he's like, "Yeah, but I feel like you came prepared to hate my sister. So, like, that's the issue. And the way that you acted with my family, like, that's a lot." She immediately turns it up and she's like, "Well, you know what? Then you should be with someone that is ready to be at your sister's house at all times." And he's sensing that she's already triggered. So he's trying to reach out for her hand and, like, trying to have some physical connection because he can't see her. And she's like pushing his hand away. And she's like, "No, you touch yourself like you're used to." This conversation was never going to be okay. I'm so happy that this man was never by himself with her. Like, behind closed doors without the cameras because she's just erratic. And I know we make fun of Chicken Lady and I want good for her, but I just feel like she doesn't help herself. Everyone is worthy of love. Everyone deserves love. Everyone deserves to have their needs met. But you don't freaking bulldoze your way to get it. This is a moment where we get her in the confessional and the producer's like, "So you don't think that you could potentially be overreacting about his sister?" The way that she looks at this producer, it's almost like her eyes went dark. She's like, "I never overreact." And I got chills watching that. I had to replay it because I'm like, the way that she looked at this producer, I was like, run, run. I hope that there's a few of you in the room because I would hate to be one-on-one when she is in a mood. I get it. Chidi is a bit long-winded, but I think it's super disrespectful to cut someone off when they're trying to explain something. And so he's trying to give her his side of things, his perspective of things. She starts talking about things that are unrelated. Like she's looking at the water, she's talking about nets, she's pointing out things that she knows that he cannot see. And I feel like that was purposely malicious. And he wasn't saying anything like malicious towards her in this moment. It just baffles me that in a conversation where she wants to convince him to be with her, to spend time with her, that instead she's like, "I'm gonna make you feel pain and you still should want to be with me." None of it made sense to me. And I wish that that was the most that she did, but it gets worse. In many words, she basically says that he's being breastfed by his sister. And you could see Chidi being like, "What? Like, why would you say something so off the wall like that?" All of this was a mess. And I'm like, "Chicken Lady, this is the prettiest you've ever looked." Did you guys notice that? She looks so beautiful. Her skin looked porcelain. The scenic background behind her, like the lighting, everything about it. I'm like, you look so angelic and you are being... She just looks so angelic for someone that was just being a bit diabolical. So at this point, she's thrown a few jabs, and Chidi decides to throw one of his own, and he's like, "You always say that you've been in toxic relationships, but I think that you need to look within because, like, obviously, like, basically you're contributing to that." He basically tells her, "Babe, you're the common denominator. I'm gonna need you to do some self-reflection." She did not like that, obviously. "How could you tell me that I'm the problem when I've dealt with people, that abuse narcotics, that do this and this? How dare you say that pain that I experienced is my fault?" He's like, "I was alone on purpose. I left them on purpose. How could you use that against me?" What did you guys think? Did you guys think that he was being malicious when he said that? Or did you think that he was like, maybe this is hypocritical coming from a commentary channel? I just feel like in breakups, I don't need you to educate me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need you to... It's like kind of like what Big Ed did to Liz. I feel like it can feel a little patronizing. Maybe like if there's a little distance and you talk later on and you want to give me some advice, or maybe if I ask like what could have been done differently in our relationship, then you could share it. But in the heat of it, the last thing I want to hear is that you think I need therapy, even if I do, you know? She's not taking this well. She's like, you won't touch me, you won't sleep with me, you won't spend time with me, your sister hates me, and on top of that, you're telling me that everything I've told you, you think that I'm the problem? While I may agree with Chidi, I don't think that that was a nice thing to say. Then it takes a turn where she's like, so was this just because of the visa? You wanted a visa? Is that why you wanted to get married? Like you wouldn't let me touch you until we get married? And he's like, no, if I wanted to get a visa, I would have gotten it. And I just think that that's such an interesting take from Rayne. You know what I mean? Like, Chidi said it. He's like, if I just wanted you for the visa, I would have slept with you. She really did not like the fact that he called her a common denominator, because she's like, you're crossing the line. You need to tread carefully. But yeah, this conversation should be done by now, but it's not, because he's like, listen, I'm educated. Like, I don't need you to be with a visa. I could have gotten in different ways. He's like, honestly, I think that you need to look within. And she's like, no, you need to look within. Again, he is being a little long-winded, and she's like, oh, get to the point already. Like, what do you want? He's like, I need you to listen to me. She's like, I am listening to you. You know what? If you don't want me in your life, like, I will exit. And he's like, well, if that's how you feel. And I'm like, wait, Chidi, so you're going to make her think that this breakup was her idea, even though you came to the beach with the intention to break up with her? That's a little manipulative. But you could also be scared of her and be like, you know what? This is the best outcome, to lead her to believe that she broke up with me. We can all agree that these two are just not great for a plethora of reasons. And just seeing the way that she easily blows up, I'm like, that is not safe for anyone, but especially not someone that can fend for themselves. He is blind, he needs support. He comes from a different background. They have different beliefs. There's just, the list goes on and on. He immediately dips out in a car and she's like, you know, dramatically crying on the beach. And I'm really sad that we're not going to see them in the tell-all. Just would be interested in hearing what other people had to say. And I'm wondering if they'll still like talk about them even though they won't be there. I'm curious. But next week, you guys, Lauren comes back, and there is a snippet of him saying, you know, he really wants to stay in the Philippines. He wants to run from the freaking child support in America, and they don't allow same-sex marriages in the Philippines. So he suggests to Faith's face that he should marry her mother. So we have that to look forward to. Let me know your thoughts on this episode, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.